There is no hood like parenthood. Hi, I'm Kanika Chadda Gupta. I'm a former CNN journalist, mom of three, including twins, and host of That's Total Mom Sense, the podcast. Now, if I had a dollar every time I heard, gee, you have your hands full. On my show, I interview change makers on their life lessons, legacy, and superpower of intuition, which I call our mom sense and dad sense. I've had the privilege of working with Mom 2.0, March of Dimes, and the White House, and have had some pretty amazing parents on my show.
Hey, what's up? I'm Kelly Rowland.
Hi, this is Chelsea Clinton.
It's me, Bobby Brown. Can't wait to share my story.
That's Total Mom Sense is a production of the Evergreen Podcast Network. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube so you never miss an episode. To join my tribe, visit that'stotalmomsense.com and follow me on Instagram at Kanika Chadda Gupta. Now let's dive into today's episode. Hi, everyone. Today we are going to talk about the birds and the bees. Do you even know what that means? I know you know what it means, but I want to just explain it for you. The phrase the birds and the bees is a metaphorical story that explains reproduction to children by comparing it to natural events. It's basically using the imagery of bees pollinating flowers and birds laying eggs to explain fertilization and ovulation. But this metaphor goes straight over my head, and I gave birth to three kids. So you know children aren't going to fully understand this abstract concept. We should be having frequent conversations with our kids about relationships and sex, and ideally, it starts younger than you'd think. Today, we're going to get into all of that with my wonderful guest, Tamara Mason. Tamara is a program manager for the Department of Defense, licensed clinical professional counselor, and a perinatal mental health specialist. She is making waves on social media by sharing her insights on parenting and wellness. She created a presentation called Romantic Relationships as a Teen and the Birds and the Bees in order to educate her teenage daughter about relationships, sex, and making informed decisions, which garnered over 400,000 views on TikTok. She's a devoted wife and mom of three daughters based in Maryland, and in her free time enjoys DIY projects, braiding, makeup, interiors, dissecting true crime shows, and of course, shuttling her girls to their extracurriculars. Tamara's honest, thoughtful approach has struck a chord with parents and teens alike, and I can't wait to unpack her journey, wisdom, and actionable advice for all of us. Tamara, welcome to That's Total Mom Sense.
Thank you so much for having me, Kanika. Like, the gratitude runs deep. I really don't even have the words to express how grateful I am for you to even have reached out to me. So thank you so much for having me today. And hey, everybody.
Yay, absolutely. I want to share how, I first discovered you because I am all about shout outs and giving credit where it's due. And it was through my friend Neha Rooch. She is the author of The Power Pause. So in her newsletter, she linked your TikTok video, and that was also featured on Motherly. I love our community because we're all sharing our stories in a digital way on social. And I just sent you a DM, and here we are. Like, we've just become fast friends. We've been on the phone many times, and I
Yes.
love that this podcast is happening now.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, I was scrolling on Facebook one day and I'm like, wait a minute, that's me. And it was an ad from Motherly. I was like, what the heck? I did not know that this was happening. So even my
Wow.
cousin had shared it. I was like, what the heck? So I'm like going
Yes.
down this whole rabbit hole. Motherly had posted it, and a popular mom page, Scary Mommy. They posted it also. I love Scary Mommy. I was like, wow, babe, look at this. Like, this is really like blowing up into something. And it's just funny because I started off with not even double digit followers on TikTok because I don't use it that often. But my best friend was just
Yes.
like, "Yeah, like, let's just post it. Like, it's really cute. People are gonna love it." And here we are.
And here we are. And so, what I'm referring to, it's going to be in the show notes, is your video where you break down the birds and the bees and relationships and sex and pregnancies and STDs and STIs and everything for your daughter. And you made PowerPoint slides about it. So I can't wait to dive into that and, just this video that went viral. But before we get into it, I want to have you share your story because we need to set the stage and I'd love for the audience to get to know you first.
Yeah.
So, yeah, let's start with your childhood. Tell us a little bit about your upbringing.
Yeah, so not a problem. Like I told you on the phone, I'm very transparent. I do not mind being transparent at all because I feel like you said, we need to hear each other's stories because I feel like it helps us gain skills, know what's not working, what is working, and all together it ends up working as a collective for humanity. So my story, growing up, I didn't grow up in like a traditional two-parent household. It's a little complex, but I'm gonna keep it brief. So my bio dad, he was in my life, but parents were all parents, as in my bio dad, stepdad, and my mom. They were all in the military. So my dad, he ended up getting stationed in Washington State. My mom got stationed in Virginia. They were not married, so it was like, like these are your orders. So that's how that happened. My mom ended up meeting my stepdad while we were in Virginia, and they were together for shoot, they just had, it might be going on 30 years, I think. Um,
Wow.
yeah, long time, long time. But, relationship was rocky. It was very rocky, so I seen a lot of arguments, a lot of things that should not have been happening. So I know my stepdad, he would go out to sea for a lot, so he'd be gone for maybe 6 months at a time. Then at one point, they were supposed to get a divorce, and, he was in South Carolina, we were still in Virginia, so it was like I had 2 parents, technically, but not under one roof, so I was basically raised by a single mother, a married single mother. So that within itself, of course, I know it brought her a lot of stress. It had to bring her a lot of stress. Now that I'm older and able to, in hindsight, I'm able to see like, wow, that was a lot to take on. So initially, me and her were really tight. I was definitely a mama's girl. If she was in the bathroom, I was in there too. So yeah, we were like very tight like that. But kids grow into their teenage years and they start to develop their own identity. I don't think that really settled well with my mom. I started having my own opinions, wanting to go explore things on my own. And she is the way she grew up. I think it definitely contributed to, she had a little bit like controlling ways, and it it impacted our relationship, mother to daughter relationship. Controlling when things didn't go her way. So she wasn't physically abusive to me or anything like that, but I would say teetering the line of verbal abuse for sure. And you have a teen whose love language is, I can look back and say my love language is definitely words of affirmation, and it was back then. And she grew up in a household where it was very rah rah. So that was her natural instinct to go back to that when she was upset. So whenever I made her upset, of course I got the rah rah and a little name calling in there, and that plummeted my self esteem. So this is what I was going through at home, on top of like the strictness and all that. I wasn't allowed to do much of anything. You can ask any of my friends from back then. I was not allowed to go to any parties, go to the movies, to the mall, or skating, like simple things like that with my friends without her being around. So of course, you know that when you have a teen, they want to spread their wings and, like you stated, and go off and do their own thing. But it wasn't the case in my house.
So you had told me that you were on the honor roll and you were a great student and you also became a teen mom. So how did that actually unfold?
Oh, Karnika, that was like a really crazy time. And like looking back, I'm like, girl, I don't even know how I made it through all of that. So yes, honor roll 100% every year. Bam, bam, bam. And I was on the basketball team, co-captain, whatever I was, involved in the school. Like I was very close with the staff and everything. And, got my first boyfriend, my first and only boyfriend from back then. And things got heated very fast. And I ended up getting pregnant. And for the longest time, I was ignoring it. So, mind you, nobody ever had like a sit down birds and the bees, this, and this that I needed to know. Um, so I'm like, I ended up having sex. He was my first and didn't know anything. Very, very ignorant. So I ended up getting
Oh,
pregnant. Yes. I ended up getting pregnant and I didn't even like want to come to terms with it. So I missed the period, kept going to practice, practicing, and then I was out of practice and ended up almost passing out. So all my teammates were like, "Girl, what is wrong?" Like fanning me and everything, and I didn't like come to terms with it. Long story short, I ended up finally getting a pregnancy test. This is like 3 months in. I took it. It was the two lines thing. One of the lines
yes.
was very yes, one of the lines was very very faint. 32, almost 33-year-old me knows, girl, you're pregnant.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
17-year-old me, I was like, maybe this thing is tripping. Nah. Period never came. Period never came. So I'm like, what the heck? Let me get a digital one. This is like concrete, yes or no. Got a digital one and it was a solid yes. So a longer story short again, I ended up having to tell my mom. And the way
Yeah.
that happened is because I had spoken with my English teacher who I was very close with. I was like, Miss Mitchell, this is going on. I took a test. I'm pregnant. And she was, consoling me because she was telling me how she had her first child at 18 and telling me I was going to be okay. Everything's going to work itself out. So she's like, hey, go talk to Mr. Baxter, school counselor. I'm like, okay, yeah, cool. Mr. Baxter's going to help me figure this out because that was my guy. We were like this. I would go to his office just because. So I went down to talk to him and he's like, Tamara, because everybody was disappointed in me. Tamara, if you don't tell your mom by this evening, I'm calling her tomorrow morning and I'm telling her myself. I'm like, Mr. Baxter, I thought we
Oh
were
my.
cool. No, like what the heck? So I end up going to my friend's house after that, boo-hoo crying. I called my mom. She didn't answer. I called her work phone and I left a message. 17-year-old brain. Left a message on my mom's work phone to tell her mom, I'm 5 months pregnant at this point. I don't know what to do. She didn't even call me back. She just pulled up to my friend's house, picked me up. It was a silent ride home. I get in the house, so now she's upset with my she I understand this was a lot. So she probably needed somebody to like blame in hindsight. But I feel like it was a multitude of things. It wasn't just because of dad wasn't there or whatever. It was a multitude of things that led to this. So yeah, I hear her downstairs going back and forth with them. She comes upstairs to me, just sits on the bed, and I'm boohoo crying again, saying, "I just want to go to college. I just want to go to college. I just want to go to college." And she's like rubbing my back, telling me, "You're going to go to college. You're going to go to college. You're going to go." And that was really that with the pregnancy part.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. And then when you had your daughter, you did go to college, and
I
how
did.
old was your
Mhm.
baby at that time?
So Talia's birthday is July 15th, 2010. I started, I want to say it was August 26th, 2010. So she was like a month and a half years old.
Oh
And
my
head
goodness.
head to ground, feet to ground, I was marching, going, going. I wasn't paying attention to anything else. Graduated in 4 years. Immediately went into my master's program, graduated on time with that, and I cannot say that it was done by myself. There was a lot of sacrifices. There was a lot of building my own community. It was a lot of missing things that my peers were doing, and I really just had to hustle, 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 hustle. So a lot of the things my peers like see me with now, like I would say that I'm a little ahead, but it's because at the time I had a baby I had to take care of. So I was like hustling and bustling while everybody else, they were partying, doing age appropriate things. But I really had a baby to rear into this life.
Wow.
Mhm.
And I can only imagine. I mean, it's literally a child raising a baby, and it's
Yes. Yeah.
so heavy to take on that mental and physical load at such a
Yes.
pivotal time in your life. What advice do you have for other teen moms out there who are in it?
Um, yeah, I would say your life is not over. Your life is not over. You're going to have to work harder. I'm not even going to say a little harder, girl. You are going to have to work.
Yes.
And make sure that you are very conscientious about who you have in your circle. Your circle needs to be people who are going to elevate you. Your circle needs to be people who are going to support you. Your circle needs to be people who are going to have your back at all times. Really, really be conscientious about that. And the last thing I would say is you and your baby. Do what you have to do. It's you and that baby. Do what you have to do to make sure that y'all have the life that y'all deserve.
Yes. And now tell us how you met your husband, because there's a story there too.
Yes, 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 my lovely Michael Anthony Mason. Love
Mm.
him down. Love him down. So it's funny because we actually went to high school together. So he saw pregnant 17-year-old Tamara. And so we already knew each other and we kind of ran in the same circles. So his like female best friend at the time, I was best friends with her younger sister. So our circles were like that. And I knew who he was, he knew who I was, but it was just like, that's Samira, whatever. Fast forward, he had joined the Air Force. I went off to college. His female best friend at the time ended up having a graduation party for college. We both went. I didn't know he was coming. So I'm struggling trying to get in the house with this edible arrangement I had for her. And he comes up like, oh, what's up, Tamara? I'm like, oh, hey. So we reconnected there. And we were just friends, like legit friends. And we would just talk like every day. We just clicked immediately. I didn't even know like, oh, I knew you were cool. I don't know like you were this cool. So we were just talking every day. And in the midst of that, him and my daughter got close. So she's like, "Oh, hey, chicken nugget head." Like they would go back and forth joking with each other, just making the silliest of jokes. And he has childish moments, so like that was all in his ballpark. So that's how their relationship started to form. But then we started getting a little serious when I found out that I had to go to grad school in DC, Washington DC, because that's the only school that accepted me. And he was stationed at a base that was nearby. So we started getting serious, and really him stepping into this role. He didn't come in like macho. Oh, I'm dad. I'm running this household. Blah, blah. It wasn't none of that at all. Like it was very seamless. They already were like had a relationship amongst each other, and he just started expressing interest in things that she had going on. I think the same year that we decided to get serious, he even put her Barbie dream house together for Christmas that year. So like things like that. So she saw him like just really being involved. He started doing like pickup at daycare, things like that. Um, and really, I don't know, he just seamlessly fell into the role. But I know that he grew up in a situation where he had a step parent also, so he kind of understood her better than the average person would. So that helped out a lot as well.
That's incredible. But yeah, I love that. And I think that that is, the stability that you would have loved to see as a child. And you
Yeah.
created that for your baby. So
Yeah.
I'm so glad you have
Thank
this
you.
happy life
Thank
with
you.
him. It's amazing. So yeah, I want to now talk about the presentation. What was that aha moment for you where you were like, I'm going to be talking to my child about relationships and sex early on and in the most comprehensive, easy to understand way?
So I majored in psychology while I was at school at Old Dominion University, and for undergrad. And in psychology, you start learning things about family dynamics and just understanding the child from when they're born all the way up. And I'm just paying attention in school, so I'm like, wow, when she gets older, I'm really going to have to like make sure I'm focused on preparing her, protecting her by preparing her for entering the world. Because I knew early on I'm not gonna be here forever. Of course, we all know that. But I came to terms with that early on. I'm not gonna be here forever. I want my child to have the information that I knew I needed at the time. So, anyways, she grows, she's growing, she gets around 4 years old, and I immediately start like, hey, this is called your vagina, like all private areas. This is your bottom. This is everything that she needs to know at the time. What good touch is, what bad touch is, safe adults, things like that around 4 to 6 years old. And then I just graduated as she continued to grow. I would add on things like we talked about this before. So now you're able to understand things better. Let me add on something else. So nevertheless, that was my pattern. She gets up to 14. Actually, she was around 12, 13 when I was talking to my husband. I was like, hey, I'm gonna really need to come up with an idea where it sticks with her. We need to talk about birds and the bees, but in a way where it's going to stick with her forever. I want her to remember it. I don't want it to be oh, mom's on one of her rants again. Like, I don't have time and like completely ignore me. I want it to be a thing and I want it to stick. Because she's entering high school.
Yes.
Where was I when I got pregnant? So like I'm not ignorant, at least not anymore.
Right,
But so
right.
I'm like, she's entering high school. We really like need to figure out like what are we gonna do? So, anyways, at work, I'm very good. I'm known in the office for being great at making PowerPoints. So I was like, why not? Like, let me make this into like a whole PowerPoint thing. Like they're always joking on me when it's time for me to present. But yes, I was like, I'm gonna actually put it into a PowerPoint. So my husband's like, okay, yeah, do it. So I'm putting everything together and like as I'm doing it, I'm just like, okay, let me add some animations to really get her attention, some sounds and all that. And we end up having the day. So I also noticed as I was growing up myself in young adulthood, a lot of my peers, they didn't have the talk either. And as like mind-boggling as this may sound, every single one of my peers had said nobody had like a sit down talk. Somebody was like, "My mom just said don't have sex." Another person was like, I don't, her mom said something really crazy. I don't even want to say it on camera. But it wasn't anything in detail that really led to a productive educational conversation around romantic relationships in general or our bodies and sex. yeah, it's a lot that we just learned along the way in young adulthood. And I will say in my 30s now, I have a complete full understanding, but it took a lot of really wanted to learn myself in my 20s. And I didn't want that for my kids. So this is why
Yes.
I came to this point.
I love that, and I'm with you. When, I was young and now that I'm in my 40s, I still haven't had the sex talk with my parents, because I
Same.
am raised by just immigrant parents, and we just consider that so taboo and never really
Mhm.
went there.
Yeah.
And
Same
so,
in the Black
yeah,
community.
yes, yes,
Mhm.
we shouldn't feel like we need to, sweep this under the rug and not bring it up.
Yes.
So this
Yes.
presentation is such a great resource. And I'm so glad that you had the like inner knowing to solve this problem, because you
Mhm.
were like, this is something I never got, none of my friends got. I am going to create this. And parents need to know that they are so empowered. If there is
Yes.
no resource that exists out there, just make your own. And so I want
Yes.
to dive into the
Yes.
deck now,
Mhm.
because we can cover it high level, but there will also be a link to purchase on the show notes, and we are just going to send you all the support.
Thank
But
you.
yeah, of course, of course. So let's talk about how you open with, the difference between a romantic relationship and a platonic relationship, which
Yeah.
I think is a great way to set the stage. And then
Mhm.
you go into, how do you know you like someone, and if someone likes you, and
Mhm.
then how it's appropriate or inappropriate. So give us a few examples about an appropriate romantic relationship at that age versus one that is not.
Oh, an appropriate relationship at that age, age appropriate things like the things that I couldn't do in high school, the going
Mhm.
skating. Sky Zone is popular in our area, trampoline parks, just things like that, that where you're out in public, you're having fun together, you're getting to know each other. And there's nothing more than that, because at this age, you guys shouldn't be worried about trying to be like the cutest couple on Instagram or anything like that. You're just trying to get to know each other. You're still figuring yourselves out. Keep it cute, keep it age appropriate, and just have fun.
Yes, yes. And then the inappropriate things are, yeah, go ahead, drinking,
Yeah,
drugs.
getting in trouble with the law, underage drinking, underage drugs activity, having sex, 100%. What else did I have up there? Yelling at each other. Yes, absolutely not. Sending each other nudes, things like that. No, not tolerating it at all whatsoever. That is completely outside of everything that you should be doing. Because one, those types of things stick with you for the rest of your life. And I tell my child that every chance I get. I don't care if you like this boy so much and he's begging you for a nude picture and you're like, okay, just to shut him up and send it, that sticks with you for the rest of your life. And I really drive that home with her because I've seen some horror stories. So everything that I had on that list, yeah, the children should not be engaging in.
Yes, yes. And then you go on to talk about, what are the tenets of effective communication,
Mhm.
respect, trust, support,
Yes.
equality, independence, shared
Yes.
interests, and
Mhm.
positive conflict resolution and
Mhm.
reinforcement, which is
Yes.
like, these are all the makings of a functional relationship. And you
Yeah.
know when it can get dysfunctional and toxic real quick because you see it
Mhm.
doesn't fit that criteria. Um,
Yes.
Tell us about inside the presentation, you have brain checks. What does that mean?
So the brain check they're just questions that I just pop in there to ensure that she was paying attention, and also for her to just kind of reflect and think about the answer. Like, okay, you know what? Yeah, I do have the answer to that, and it's just a moment for engaging in conversation with her. So I wasn't just sitting there like reading off a PowerPoint screen and she gets bored. So the brain checks is just really for engagement and to ensure that things are sticking in her brain.
Okay. Okay, great. And then now on to sex. So how do you break it down for a teen?
So the sex portion, I did let her know that like these feelings are going to come about. Your hormones are going to change. You're going to change physically and emotionally. So just what to be aware of when these feelings come about. And I believe I had in the PowerPoint different alternatives that she could
Hmm.
engage in when she feel like she's having these feelings than having sex. Age appropriate things to do instead of having sex. So that would include things like having a hobby of your own, engaging in extracurricular activities like school, giving back to the community. Like you need to focus your brain somewhere else because I mean that sounds like very minuscule, but just even if we do that as adults, like we're thinking about something that we shouldn't even have our minds on at the time. But if you have enough going on, your brain won't have time to be shifting towards this boy that you had this huge crush on. No, you need to, go to track practice at school. Do something
Yeah.
productive to, fill your time so you're not having all these feelings are not piling up on you.
Yes.
And then also just keeping an open line of communication between me and her as well. She doesn't have to tell me like, oh, I wanna have sex right now. Okay, that's weird. So nothing like that. But, just letting me know like, "Hey, feelings are getting intense, and we can just continue to have our clear line of communication with each other so I can help guide her in those instances, and she's not dealing with it by herself."
Yes, absolutely. And then you go into STDs and STIs, and I love how you mention which ones are curable and which ones are not. And so, HPV, herpes, AIDS, not curable.
Yes. Yes, and again, I wasn't taught anything, especially when it comes to STDs and STIs, so I was actually learning a lot in my 20s, and I learned a lot while I was researching as well. And these kids need to know that because,
Mhm.
hey, if you decide to have sex, it could be just one time. If that person gives you one of these incurable STDs, that's it for like, you just need to be
For
aware.
life.
You need to know
Yeah.
yes, you need to know the precautions to take, and you need to know, like, what could happen. And it's not even like a fear tactic, it's just so you can make informed decisions.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
just things to think about. And also, I really like to heighten the importance of, when you do decide to have sex later on, let it be after marriage, I don't care. When you do decide to have sex, um, just know that reasons why you should get STD testing, STD and STI testing with your partner before you lay down with that person because they can really scar you for the rest of your life. And them being cute or them having all this money, whatever you made you fall in love with them, is not going to stop them from having a lifetime STD. You need to know that ahead of time.
100%. Yes. And then on to, before we get into pregnancy, just period, girls, period. How did you go over that with your daughters? Because they are getting it younger,
They
so they
are.
just need
I've
to be
heard as
informed.
young as 9, 8, 9 before, really
Mhm.
young. So I started that talk with her out around 7, 8 years old, because I knew I had mine at 11, and she would be in the bathroom with me too. Mama's girl,
Uh-huh, yes.
all 3 back here are mama's girls. So sometimes I have an audience in the bathroom. So
Right.
they've seen me in vulnerable moments, where, I was on my cycle. So I've been explaining to them, "Hey, this is mommy's body's way of cleaning itself out." And why does mommy's body have to clean itself out? Because this is what it does when it lets me know a baby's not in there. But just in case a baby wants to come, they have like clean space to be in mommy's tummy. So I would explain
Aw.
that around like, 6, 7, 8 years old. And then we let them know that this is what women's bodies do. So you will have a cycle like this, and this is why. So they're already prepared for that. So by the time like she started getting closer and closer, she knew like body hair was coming, which meant like, hey, it's coming soon. So I showed her early on how to put a pad on before she even had her cycle. This is how you put a pad on. Nobody taught me that. I have a horrid period story. Oh my god. Um,
Oh,
yes, it was horrible.
oh
So
my
yes, I
god.
made sure she knew, and I probably was maybe a little excessive because I was early, but I did not want her to have the experience I had. So she knew how to put a pad on. She didn't know about tampons yet because I didn't feel like that was necessary around that age.
Mhm.
Anyways, move forward. Her cycle came on. She came in my room and told me, and I was like, okay, go in the bathroom, clean yourself up. And I went in and checked on her. So she knew what to do already. It's just protecting your kids by preparing them. So I'm very much a prepare my child type of parent because sometimes my friends are like, why are you talking to your kids about that? And it could be
Mhm.
anything, and not even dealing with
Right,
sex. But I'm like,
right.
I'm just preparing them. I'm preparing because you never know. And
Yes.
these kids are so advanced so early on, and they're exposed to so much through the internet. I don't want them learning things that I didn't already talk about at home, you
Yes,
know?
yes, exactly.
So I
I'm
try to get
totally
ahead
with
of the
you.
game. Yes,
Yes,
yes, yes.
yes, and I do this with, my daughter and my sons.
Mhm.
They also join me in the bathroom, so they've seen everything, and I just feel like it's, why not use it as an opportunity to explain? Because
Yes,
they need to
yes,
know
yes,
what's happening to mommy.
yes.
But yeah, that's great. And then, when it comes to, sex, pregnancy, one thing that we spoke about, I want to touch on it here, is that um, when hormones are raging, and even though these teens are like in health class and, have
Mhm,
some semblance of like what's happening to them, we all know that it's the boys who tend to be more, hungry and zealous for it. And, they're
mhm,
now it's they don't have to go to a grocery store and get a porn magazine. It's on your
mhm,
phone. It's at your
mhm.
fingertips whenever you
Yes.
want. And so,
Mhm,
I think that how do we prepare boys and girls to be, you know, a little mindful of this and set some boundaries that it's like, yes, we understand you're feeling all these things, but
mhm,
there are consequences and
mhm,
ramifications for your actions. So just know what's
mhm.
what.
Alright, so I will put this in the realm of, setting boundaries. I'm very big on that with my daughters. If you say no, your no means no, and you stand on that with confidence. And but before we even get to that point, children must have the self-esteem and the confidence in order to say no. And where does that start? That starts at home as well. So at home, I told you earlier, we are very, very much, we drive our kids to understand themselves, understand their value that they provide to the world. And once you understand this, you're able to dictate what you want to agree to and what you don't want to agree to. So setting boundaries with these overzealous boys,
Mhm.
um, knowing that there's consequences that come with engaging in whatever sexual activity they're trying to get you to engage with, and once you understand those consequences, you're able to say no confidently, and and really classy in a way where you're not even hurting the guy's feelings, but you're really just setting a firm like shield up, letting them know like this is not where I'm going with this. Like I understand
Yeah.
that I have a future. I understand I have parents I need to go home to that I have to answer to, that I am not trying to upset. Just really honoring yourself and valuing yourself enough to the point where you are confident with saying no, to not engage in anything, or let peer pressure push you in a way that you're not trying to go.
Yes, yes. And then also in the presentation, you talk about it's so important for us to teach our younger kids the difference between good touch and bad touch.
Mhm,
How do you recommend going about it? And,
mhm.
I feel like we could save so many children from like molestation and other risks
Yes,
if they were just
yes.
aware.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So this ties into helping your child early on be able to identify their body parts, and also being able to identify safe people, safe adults, and not safe adults. But nevertheless, this reminds me of a story that I had heard. It's actually a real case. It was a real case that I was taught in grad school. And our professor had told us a little girl. She was in elementary school. Can't tell you the grade, don't remember her, but the baby was in elementary school, and she kept going to her teacher saying that it was either uncle or dad had touched her cook or ate her cookie. I'm sorry, had ate her cookie. So the teacher is like, "Okay, sweetie." Like the baby kept saying it. And the teacher's like, "Okay, sweetie. Like I'm sorry that happened. Sending the child back to the child's seat." Long story short, baby girl was referring to her vagina as her cookie. So a male at home was, molesting her, and she was trying to report it, but she didn't have the words to report it, which is another reason why I am so invested in ensuring that my kids know their body parts, because if you're coming to me and telling me something hurts or somebody touched you in a place that they weren't supposed to touch, I need to know exactly what you're talking about. I don't refer to it as a cookie. I don't refer to it as a poon poon I've heard before. We don't give it nicknames because vagina, penis, these are like the factual names for it. These are actual body parts that you have. They're not cuss words. So I ensure that my kids like understand, what everything is, and not to go outside and talk about it all willy nilly. So they know that, they know it's a private matter. But this is just why I drive home to make sure that your kids are aware of their actual body part names, because things like that can happen. As
Mhm.
unfortunate as it is, it's so unfortunate. It breaks my heart every time I hear about it.
Me
But
too.
we got to equip our kids, protect
Yes.
our kids by preparing them.
Yes, and you're also, equipping parents. So, how do you recommend that they use this presentation and like talk through it with their kids because I feel like, so many of them are going to be nervous and anxious and
Mhm.
just to sit in the awkwardness, especially
Yeah.
if you're teaching kids younger than teens, and then the teens are going to
Mhm.
get the eye rolls. So, how do we tackle this head on?
So when it comes to presenting the presentation, I actually have notes on each slide of every single thing I said in during the moment I had with my child. I typed out every single thing word for word, and pasted it under the notes section. However, I was told by one of my friends that I should probably like do some type of pre-recorded version of it of me saying everything. So I'm thinking about ways that I can do that, which will be the next thing that I'm working on. But yeah, so I will say though, this is not a conversation that should just be dove into immediately if you don't have if it's like a taboo subject in the house. Yes, it still should be talked about, but I think the approach should look a little differently instead of like coming out of the blue like, "Hey, come downstairs. I have this presentation. Come, like I'm about to talk to you." So really just start with figuring out where your child is. And as a parent myself, I can't speak for anybody else. I know cultures work differently. But as a parent, I just like to listen more than I speak. I
Yes.
try. I try to listen more than I speak. So this really gives me a heads up on where my child's thoughts are and
Mm,
where I need to intervene at, or if I don't need to intervene, or if I need to really build on something that I like. She's starting to get somewhere, but let me build on top of that.
right.
So that's one thing that I do know. So if you're like really trying to get into this, just start listening to your child more. So
That's
leaving it
beautiful.
at like, hey, how was your day at school? And they're like, "Oh, good," and then they just go off to their room. No. No,
Yes,
no, no,
yes.
no.
No, no, no. Yeah,
No.
definitely, yeah, get them to engage much more than that.
Yes,
And
yes, yes.
yeah, yeah, I do. We do a game called Rose, Thorn, and Bud, which gets them
Mhm,
talking. What was the rose
mhm.
of the day? What was the thorn of the day? Something that was challenging.
Oh.
Yeah. And then what is a bud? Something that they're looking forward to. So yeah, it's just,
Oh, I like that. I
yeah,
like that.
it's so
So,
fun for
yeah,
everybody. Okay, so tell us about a mom sense moment that you've had. And by that, I mean a time that you've trusted your intuition and that just inner voice that we all have.
a mom sense moment for me, I would say one of them would be when I was pregnant with her. When I was pregnant with my oldest child, and I finally went to the center that would help out with stuff like this. And this was actually before I told my mom. I went to the center that would help out with situations like this, and they ended up doing an ultrasound. And that's when I saw a whole human in my body. That was my first time seeing her, and something just clicked. I don't know what it was. Something just clicked in my brain and was like, girl, you have to take care of this baby. And ever since then, like it's so like blurry thinking about it because I was so really like head down, Conica, head down,
Yes,
Marshall, go,
yes.
go, 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 go. I really think that like that was a mom sense moment for me, and that intuition and instinct is what helped me build this life for her. And then another one I would say is just knowing my kids in general. So outside of like clicking into mom mode with her, knowing all three of my kids because an important thing to know as a parent, all humans move in patterns. Everybody moves in behavior patterns. And once they start shifting outside of that pattern, if you pay attention enough to your child, you know when they start shifting away from who they usually are, that's start asking more questions than you usually do. Start filling them out more. Really gather an understanding of their inner circle, outside circles, and how they're intertwining with each other. And just be super involved in your child's life. So I notice those shifts sometimes. The youngest are 6 and 5, and I still notice those shifts. And it could be something like somebody had called them stupid at school, anything. But it's still a moment for me to intervene for that age and ensure that I still uplift their self esteem. And let's process it. Let's talk about it. That's actually not a good friend. You actually should not be playing with them. So just things like that is what I would say is mom sense for me.
Yes. Oh, I love it. I love that. And what are some resources, books, websites that you use that parents can, like
Yeah,
take a cue from?
absolutely. So I actually have one here. I have two to give you guys.
Hmm.
Jackie Latran. She's a nurse practitioner and a teen confidence expert. I found this on Amazon. It's called I Would, But My Damn Mind Won't Let Me. This is for teens, and it helps them with building their confidence and self esteem. So, we've all been teens before. It's like we're trying to be this great person, but our frontal lobe is not fully developed, and there's run-ins with that. So I know that my daughters are going to go through this, and I thought this was amazing. So thank you to, I'm gonna say it's Jackie. Thank you to Jackie very much for this is a book, and she has supplemental journals for it. I got the 2 supplemental journals. She has a bunch of other resources up there as well, but these 2 were great. The other resource I have is called Where Hands Go. This is the power of no for smaller children. So understanding good touch and bad touch. This is by Christay Lynn. I hope I'm not pronouncing her name wrong. Christay Lynn Sanders Diggs, but she did an excellent job really illustrating and writing out for children about good touch and bad touch. So my daughters, they enjoyed this, and I revisit it periodically.
That's wonderful. Um, and then lastly, where can the audience find you and your work and follow you? Because you are just a light.
Thank you so much, and I do a lot. So, my, my private practice Instagram, this is the page that I had posted PowerPoint, presentation to, is Strands Wellness, and, I
Mhm.
also actually have a book collection, a children's book collection I'm working on, Kanika, so I'm super excited to talk to you about that later on,
Mhm.
but,
Yes.
it's going to be called The Harmony Guide Academy, and it's going to be a series of children's book collections discussing social emotional wellness topics. So, things like managing anxiety, because children deal with these emotions, complex emotions early on. So, managing anxiety, setting boundaries, understanding grief, um, fitting in at school. So, things like that. I'm going to have a whole series of children. All the children attend the Harmony God Academy, and they just all have their own little story. So, that will
Aw.
be coming soon. But if you guys want to get a head start, you can go ahead and follow the page. It's called The HG Academy on Instagram. So you'll see it. I don't have anything posted yet because it's coming. I promise it's coming. But if you want to get a head start on that with the release dates and everything, you can follow the HG Academy on Instagram.
Amazing. Amazing. Oh my gosh. And
Yay.
then your handle is Tamara Mason.
Yes, my personal handle is Tamara, Tamara, Mason, Mason. Leave out the O. Somebody took it already. So I had to get creative. So, yes, Tamara Mason as you see it without the O. You can feel free to follow me. I'm very friendly. And that's the same thing on TikTok as well.
Great, great. Oh, I want them
Mhm.
to see all your videos. I love all
Yes,
the
yes,
braiding
yes.
that you do. It's so pretty.
Yeah,
Um,
thank you. Thank you.
but it's so, so amazing to have gotten to know you over this time.
Yes,
And I
me
know
too.
this chat will be enlightening for
Yes,
parents
I
and
hope
teens to tune into.
so.
So
I
thank you
really
so
hope
much.
so. Yes, ma'am. Thank
Uh,
you, Kanika,
I
so much.
appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of That's Total Mom Sense. You can listen to the audio version wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for That's Total Mom Sense. You can learn more about my guests by logging on to www.thatstotalmomsense.com. Be sure to follow me on Instagram, where I'm most active on social media. My handle is at Kanika Chadda Gupta. And if you have ideas for show topics or guests you can't wait to have on the show, write to me at thatstotalmomsense@gmail.com. And lastly, please rate, review, and subscribe to That's Total Mom Sense if you haven't already. Thanks for being in my tribe.